Thank you guys so much for joining. If you haven't met me already, I'm Alex. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager for Australia and New Zealand. So really excited to have you all here. I think we've got mainly Australian and New Zealand Circle members, which is exciting. I think maybe a couple of other nationalities as well. But thank you guys for joining. And we're excited to have, I guess, just something on our time zone. I know a lot of people probably it's a struggle to join some of the 4 a.m. webinars. So really good that we've got, something on our time zone. So I'm pretty much going to hand you guys over to Hannah and Nick from SquareKicker. So I will let them do their introductions, but we're really excited to have them lead you through this webinar because I know SquareKicker is something that a lot of you guys have used. And hopefully for those of you who haven't, have a really good introduction to it. So I will pass you guys over and feel free to ask any questions, pop them in the chat. We want to keep this as interactive as possible for you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. We are so excited to join you all here. And like Alex said, it's super fun to have something hosted kind of on the down under side of the world. Those of you that are joining us from the north, of course, are welcome. But yeah, I think you'll get a brighter version of us than when we have to record these things very early in the morning. So I'm Hannah and this is Nick. We are the co-founders of SquareKicker. So we're here in Nelson, New Zealand. If you haven't visited, highly recommend it. And we've got a team of 13 that are building out SquareKicker. I think Natalie had made a suggestion that everyone that's joining us, if you wanted to chuck your business names in the chat, because it would be really fun to be able to follow people that are joining us, particularly connecting the Australia and New Zealand Circle members. It's really fun to start creating a bit of a community here. So that would be awesome. We are going to go through a little bit of different things today. So we'll talk to you a little bit about what SquareKicker is, how it may be able to help you in your business. We've got a couple of user stories that we can share from people that have been using SquareKicker for a while and how it's helped grow their businesses. So we'll be able to share those with you. And then we will look at some of the specifics of what SquareKicker can do. Nick's going to take you through some tutorials. So we'll look at the basic tools and then hopefully we've got time to look at some of those more extended features, which are really fun to play with. But like Alex said, we really want to have this super interactive. I think Lauren from our team should be in the chat and she will be able to throw some links in there for you and we'll keep up with everything. But if there's anything we don't manage to answer, we have a great customer support team. Nick and I always have eyes on that as well. So if you've got any questions that we don't get to, or you're like, hey, can SquareKicker do this? We are always happy to see those, but we'll try and make sure there's heaps of time for questions and interaction throughout the meeting as well. Cool, Nick.
Cool. So I'll just start off about what is SquareKicker. So SquareKicker, as many of you not know, is a Squarespace only design and animation extension for Squarespace. And so, so it's a no-code version of basically more tools that you can do with Squarespace that adds animations and custom stylings. And it just writes all that custom code that's sometimes super painful to manage and maintain and look for and injects it straight into your site. And you have a visual UI to manage that. Up until recently, it's been pretty much the only thing that we've been doing, but we've been branching off into more products. Hence, we're looking at making a template engine and a template store. So web designers such as yourself can start to make passive income selling templates through our kind of template store and our template engine, which we'll go over kind of later on in the webinar here. And so that's kind of a little bit more of what it is and what we're doing and where we're going. But really our big vision, our big dream, our passion is to empower Squarespace designers to create the life that they want to live. Like that's really our bottom line, is we want to be able to equip you to be able to do your job better, to maybe charge more, to work less, to whatever you want to do to scale. And so that's kind of our passion. It's our background as well. We're web designers as well ourselves that want to build for web designers. So so looking forward to kind of meeting a bit more of you guys and where that goes. So Hannah, did you have a poll for us?
Yeah, awesome. So just to start off so that we can make sure this is as relevant as possible to all of you, we've got a quick poll that hopefully Alex is going to be able to chuck up for us. And we can just get a little bit of an idea of, awesome, what everyone's doing. So first question in there is, how long have you been using Squarespace? The second question is, do you build websites for others? So are you, I guess, a professional designer, or are you just building your own site or a couple of sites for yourself? And then have you used SquareKicker before? So if you want to go ahead and fire in your answers, and then we can have a look at some of the results.
No, they're putting water in. Sorry. They're
Hannah,
putting
I
water
think
in.
you might want to mute your volume
Oh,
there.
sorry.
No worries.
We can love to hear all that's going on as well. Not like we don't want to know.
All good. We have all been there. Awesome. How are those results coming through, Alex?
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody, no worries, Hannah. I think pretty much everyone has answered them. We've got, yeah, I'd say probably like 95%.
Perfect. Are you able to fire those up now?
Yes, I'll end the poll. I mean, I think, do you want me to, I can actually give you a read through if you like.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
I think definitely the vast majority, 82% 3+ years, which is great. Around 15%, 1 to 2 years, 3% less than 1 year. 92% are professional designers. And then, oh, interesting, 67% have not used SquareKicker before. So that's exciting. 30% have, which is great. I will end that poll. I don't know. Share results.
Hey, there it is.
We can do that
That's
as well.
awesome.
Cool.
Hey, thank you so much for filling that out, everyone. That's really helpful. Nice to see we are all in the right place. Lots of professional designers, which is who SquareKicker is really built for. And then exciting that not many of you have used it before. So we will make sure we kind of give a full rundown on SquareKicker right from the start. So thanks very much for that, Alex. Appreciate it. Awesome. So like Nick said, SquareKicker's real mission is to empower Squarespace designers. And we sat down together as a team kind of about 6 months ago and really looked at what our mission was and kind of why we're getting out of bed in the morning to do SquareKicker. And it's something we'd looked at before, but I guess just with you know, all of the new designers coming in and a bit more of that client feedback, really honing down into how we were going to be useful. And we came kind of to this line of we want to empower Squarespace designers to create the life that they want. It's not necessarily that you can make more websites. It's not necessarily that you can take heaps of time off, but it's giving you the ability to choose. And so SquareKicker really is made so that we can, you know, assist you with that as much as we can. So that's kind of the heart behind the tools. So what we did in kind of coming to that is talk to a lot of designers about their pain points. What we often hear from designers about preventing them from growing is like a lack of time or, you know, a lack of skills or the ability to kind of implement the ideas that they had, or that they weren't making enough income because it's hard with the ebbs and flows of, you know, client work coming in and out. So I can rabbit about this all day long, but we've actually got a couple of our user stories that I thought would be really fun to share. And hopefully Nick is going to be able to share those with you. And they're just really quick, but it gives you a really good idea of kind of some of the pain points that SquareKicker can help relieve.
Let me just share the right one here. That'd be great.
Awesome. So first up, we've got Michael. So Michael is from Vative Creative. He is, wait for this, a teacher during the day. He's an artist. He also makes amazing Squarespace websites. If you haven't been onto our
That's my bad.
Sorry. If you haven't been onto our SquareKicker inspiration page, we've got a page there where we share lots of really cool websites from designers, and Michael's got quite a few in there. But we can hear just a quick snippet of Michael's story.
A lot of my clients were asking for things that I couldn't do in Squarespace. And I was ready to learn a program such as like Webflow and Figma and all of that. And then I found SquareKicker, and it changed my my entire workflow. I don't have to sit there and code for a really long time anymore. Anything that I was able to think of, I could create. Anything that my clients could think of, I could create. It is essential if you're a web designer on Squarespace.
Cool. So the next one we've got is Tanya Mushi. So she does a lot of not-for-profit sites. So we can jump over and have a little listen to Tanya now.
SquareKicker has really sort of changed the game as far as what kind of projects we can take. It probably saves me 10 to 20 hours per project.
Awesome. And then we've got Vlad from Romania, who was an architect and is now building websites.
If you're going for a personal approach, you need to change a little bit here and a little bit there. That was time consuming, a lot of time. So when SquareKicker came about, it took me from 4 to 6 websites every year to more than 20. It's just easy.
So that's just a little snippet of some of the stories that we get to hear a lot from our users. And we're really fortunate that our users are great at feeding that stuff back to us. And it really helps to inform the products that we're making and what we're kind of building into Squarespace. So that's really a lot of what we're doing. So if you try, sorry, not into Squarespace, into SquareKicker, should have named it better, shouldn't we? So if you're trying out SquareKicker and you're not finding those things, give us a reach out, because there's probably some stuff that we can help share with you to really maximize what you're getting from SquareKicker. Nick, did you want to take us a little bit of a run through kind of the SquareKicker plans and how that functions?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is some confusion sometimes when we talk about the pricing and the plans. So I just wanted to give a good run through, because what we've tried to think about, again, from that empowering designers, is how do we create a product that allows you as the designer to actually make something cool and interesting, but not pass it off to your clients, or to kind of inherit kind of ongoing costs for you as a business. So that's something that as a designer, I was always looking ways to get out of. And so when we created SquareKicker, we thought of that as well. So I just want to share a screen here of a snippet of our pricing page, which will hopefully just walk us through that. This page here, great. Cool. So this here is just describing kind of the two different versions of our plan. So we have one which is the personal plans, which are your basic and your pro plans. Now these are website kind of specific. So each one of your websites will need one of these unique plans. So basic basically does all the basic features, all the design features. It just lacks the ability to add presets or the advanced features on your site. Pro, on the other hand, has access to everything. So you can add any of the advanced features, all the presets, etc. But that is a subscription per website. So this works really well if you're making like 1 or 2 websites a month tops, because as soon as you get to more than that, you start going to each one of those per month, if you will, you start dipping into a little bit more expensive. And so to create an easier workflow, we've created professional plans. Now, the most common one is a designer plan. This allows you to have basically an unlimited amount of websites that you can kind of create, and you can kind of turn websites on and off as far as being active or inactive, because you have 10 slots that are active websites that can be used anytime. That means you or your clients could jump in and use SquareKicker tools when it's active throughout the month of that time plan. And when you're finished, after a month or 2 or 3, you can inactivate that plan and add another one. Again, there's no limit to how many you can have active on your site. This allows you to kind of even flow and add as many websites as you want and turn over. So as you can see, if you have more than, say, 3 more than 3 websites are using SquareKicker on a pro plan, specifically a monthly, you're far better off to be on a designer plan, which actually helps. And if you pay monthly, that's obviously $59 or $29, but paying annually, specifically on a designer plan, if you know you're going to want it for the whole year, you actually have a lot more freedom to kind of add and use SquareKicker whenever you want, even if it's for a small little feature, and then turn it back off again. So that's just a little bit about the pricing of SquareKicker. And we can hear often sometimes people say, well, it is a bit expensive, and how do I afford this in my costs? I'm just starting out. So my suggestion is just to increase your pricing just a little bit, maybe $50, maybe $100 per website, and that allows you to really use SquareKicker in your products. I was thinking actually 50 or 100 New Zealand dollars. Otherwise, you can go for like 20 or 30, maybe $50 US if you're looking at that range. And that allows you just freedom to kind of use that in your project to kind of increase your rates. And ultimately, what we think about it as well, as we heard from Mushi Creative, I think her name is Tanya, saving her 10 to 20 hours per project a month. And I know for me personally, when I was doing websites still while also making SquareKicker, I was using SquareKicker in my website jobs, and I was literally saving hours and hours and hours of work. So therefore, I can increase my hourly rate and actually make more money and save time. So at the end of the day, I might have Adobe in my products. I might have some other design tools like Canva. If those things like SquareKicker are going to save you time, you're actually going to make more money, because then you could take on more clients and actually have more billable time to do those pieces. So that's just a little bit of a tip on how you can use SquareKicker strategically in your pricing to kind of afford it, especially getting off the ground. So yeah.
Awesome. There's a couple of questions that have come in. So the first one is, are the prices in New Zealand dollars? No, they are in USD. And the second question that's come through there is, can you switch the websites in and out on the pro plan? So no, that's the difference between the professional and the personal plan. So with the basic and pro, you can't switch websites in and out. So you buy one subscription per website, but what you can do is just pay while you're using the tools. So if you want to build one site, sign up, get your subscription. Say you're using, a month of the builds, just pay for 1 month, and then you can actually unsubscribe and all of your changes will stay with the website. So you don't have to keep paying for this product forever. So we like to think about them as tools. So when you're not using tools, you don't have to pay for them. And then if you want to jump back in and add some more stuff, just resubscribe again for a month. Everything will be there, pop back into the tools. So all you're doing when you're unsubscribing is just losing access to the tools, but all of the customizations stay in your website. So that's there forever. The advantage of the designer, like Nick said, is that is valuable if you are building more than kind of 3 sites in a month. That just becomes better value for you. But it's also easier if you've got clients coming in and out. Say you've got a client that's come back 6 months later and they want some quick changes. You can just really quickly reactivate that site without having to go through like a whole subscribe process. Just pop it back in your dashboard. Make those changes and then you can just pop them out again. So we've really tried to design it with that designer mindset of making sure we're not adding to your ongoing costs. So there's nothing that you have to kind of either build into your kind of long-term subscription plans. You're not going, oh my goodness, if I have this client for 7 years, I have to keep this product for 7 years. And you're not having to explain that to your client, because we know that's really hard when you're like, hey, I've got this great product I want to use, but now you have to pay more. So like Nick said, it can be really easy just to add a small amount to what you're charging your clients if you want to kind of offset that cost. But what we find with a lot of our designers is because they're able to produce really high quality websites, with those kind of extra functionalities that look a bit flash to your clients, and you can do it way faster than custom coding, you can actually offset that cost in your business pretty easily.
Cool.
Awesome. Hopefully that explained all of your questions on pricing. But like I said, if you've got any more, feel free to fire them in and Lauren can help you out, or we can get to those chats afterwards. So I'd love to hear just quickly in the chat, do you guys use custom code? Are you putting CSS into your websites? Kind of what's your comfort range there? Just give you a second to fire some stuff into the chat. Code forever. Maybe not after you've heard the rest of this chat, Natalie, but no, it's good. There's definitely a place for that.
Yeah, I mean, I love code. That's kind of why I kind of got into making more custom websites, because I was enjoying learning how to code, but sometimes I spend 10, 20 hours learning something, coding something, and my client goes, yeah, maybe not. I'm like, but I just spent 20 hours learning how to do this thing and you don't even want to use it anymore.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, cool. So that looks like there's a lot of people using CSS and some JavaScript on there. So that's great. There's definitely a place for that. Like Nick said, you can do a lot of really exciting stuff, but there are some benefits to kind of having minimal amounts of custom code on your website. So it's, complexity and size are always a bit of an issue when you're adding code in. There's that maintenance on it, maintaining it for yourself, maintaining it for your client, not having clients get in there and, add extra stuff into the middle of your CSS, which is always a fun time.
Add, you mean by break?
Yeah, I was trying to be slightly more polite, but yeah, that's the general vibe. And then also when Squarespace makes improvements, which we know they do because they're always iterating on their platform and adding these amazing improvements that we love, but that can also break your code, which I'm sure if you're all familiar with code, you've probably come across that, and then suddenly you're going, oh my goodness, I used that code on how many websites back, and you have to try and think where you can go back to that. So again, with that kind of designer hat on, when we were building out SquareKicker, these were some of the things we were thinking of. So one of the things that SquareKicker can answer is that you don't have to add that extra code and complexity. So SquareKicker writes code, so it is JavaScript and CSS that it's writing for you. So it's really nice, it's really fast, and it's minified and popped into your site. But it is hidden behind a little layer. So your clients can't go in there and mess it up, and that keeps it nice and safe. And then also we are able to push updates into your code. So if Squarespace is making a change, we usually see that pretty fast. And because we've got lots of people on the SquareKicker platform, we have access to kind of see those things really quickly. So often we have a little change pushed out within like 1 or 2 hours of Squarespace making that change. And we can fire that away straight into all of your clients' websites without you even having to know that there was a change made.
Yeah, depending how big the bug is. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we'll give our designers and developers some, some time off over the weekends, just in case. Yeah, so that's a little bit of the cool thing about that custom code piece is we've made it really robust, and it's gotten more robust over the years. So people come in and accidentally delete something or delete a line of SquareKicker. What you don't actually realize is every time you open up your site, SquareKicker is getting kind of that code is deleted and then rebuilt from scratch. So every single time it's just always rebuilding, always updating all the time, and keeping it just really robust. And what you may or may not know is when we're tweaking stuff behind the scenes in the admin mode, there's actually a lot of stuff in the UI that needs to change in Squarespace, and that's also being written twice. So CSS is written differently when you're edit mode and on your live site. So there's actually a lot going on to make that kind of user integration feel really nice and smooth. So you're not having to click something, hit refresh, and see what it looks like. It's always there while you're making it. So it's like a little visual code editor. So it's quite fun.
Yeah, awesome. We've got a couple of questions that have just come through on those. So let's get to those before we move on. So first question, do we host SquareKicker's code separately?
Ooh, that's a great question. So SquareKicker, we have a server that maintains and holds all your data. So every one of your changes is hosted on our server. We have a record of that backup, and we hold on to it for safekeeping. So all the code that gets saved is actually saved in your website. So if you're on a trial of Squarespace, for example, all that code is actually created and minified and stored in your code injection area. Sometimes you might have seen like a little spinning SK icon. That's basically a little way we just kind of minimize the code so you don't have to worry about thousands of lines of code in your code injection area. It's actually just minimized so you can continue to use that window without too much effort. And then when you kind of go into a paid Squarespace plan, to minimize it even further, we've actually put all the CSS into a file, and that file gets uploaded to your site. So there'll be a file in your website in the file management area that says the SK memory changes, and it'll have an ID on it. That ID is actually a reference to your memory. And every time you hit save, a new file is getting created for that new set of changes. So that's where all your memory is being stored on your live website, which also means that that is super fast for any website's visitors coming to your site. So they're not having to load a third-party resource, a library that someone else is managing. Everything is on your site. It's minified for speed. All the comments are taken out. So it goes like lightning fast and super lightweight. In fact, when you're on a live website, SquareKicker doesn't even phone home. Like there's no external signals going out. There's no pings. It's actually just straight code on your site, really fast and easy to use. So actually faster than any human could write, to be honest. It's actually done really, really well.
Awesome. Thanks for that question, Penny. So next question from Lucy is, does that automation happen if you're unsubscribed? So I'm guessing you're meaning those updates that we process.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when you unsubscribe, SquareKicker is disabled. So what you don't get with the ongoing subscription is you don't get those updates. So that means that you're not phoning home, as we just talked about earlier. SquareKicker is not phoning home to get those updates. We're not coming back and fixing updates, as well as when you duplicate a section or duplicate a block or duplicate a page, that would normally require SquareKicker to make and generate more code for that site, for that new page, for that new block, for the new section. So that feature doesn't continue to use SquareKicker as well. So you need to have an active subscription to basically make more code and receive more updates. Otherwise, all the code you created saves there and stays forever.
Cool. And then the last question around this from Andrew. Sorry, I have to lean in because I'm not wearing my glasses. Can you make it so that your client does or doesn't see SquareKicker when editing?
Not the moment. Essentially, if your client has admin access, they have used all the SquareKicker tools when it's active. So they'll see the SquareKicker icon, they will see all the SquareKicker tools. If you don't want them to access your site at all, just make them a website editor, then they can't change anything and they can't use SquareKicker. But I imagine your clients are actually going to want to change more than that. So when SquareKicker is disabled, they can't open up the SquareKicker UI anymore, so they can't make any more SquareKicker edits. It does mean that if you hand off that website to your client, if you transfer it to them, if you disappear, if you know, what happens to you someday in the future, they can actually create their own subscription. You have to get in touch with us at the moment to transfer it to them, and then they can reactivate their own subscription, and then they can maintain and manage their own. So some clients like to hold on to that so they don't mess up their websites. Some clients like to say, oh, actually, I would like to actually take over and do it myself, which is the beautiful thing about why we chose Squarespace, is that handoff, which is usually the thing I love about Squarespace. They don't have to come back to me to do, hey, can you add a border on that with 2 pixels? I'm like, give me 10 minutes, hold on. So it's actually a really nice way to hand off to a client. So they are looking at ways to potentially do different various options around that, but that's going to take some more development time to customize those options.
Yeah, there's a question we've definitely been asked before. And whenever we get asked these questions, they go into a little kind of stash that we've got. And then we use that to help inform the different things that we build into Squarespace. So if anything like that is ever on your mind, make sure you do send it into us, because that's really helpful to make sure that we're building the things that are really important to you. Right, we are about halfway through our time now, and I know we all want to get to the part of what can SquareKicker actually do. So we are going to jump into a little bit of a tutorial situation now, and Nick's going to take us through some of the kind of intro to the basic use of the tools inside a Squarespace website, and then we'll look at some of those more fancy features that you can put in.
Great. I'm just gonna put my notes here so we can fly through this without too much. If I do go too fast, you can watch this again in slow motion. They'll be recording afterwards, but also you can ask questions at the end. I'm happy to go through, but I'm just gonna walk you through what SquareKicker is, how it works, where all the tools are, and then I'm gonna lead you into some more advanced tutorials that kind of show you some cool things that you maybe have seen on Instagram. If you haven't followed yet, you should definitely check that out. I think the team is putting together a weekly inspiration of some really cool things we're doing that we don't have time to actually create a full-blown tutorial other than things like this. So first of all, when you install SquareKicker, the first thing you'll see is a little UI in the top corner. It's actually kind of hard to see because my UI is black as well. Anyway, so there's a little box in the top right corner. And what these things are, you have access to site tools. Page tools means unique things that are on the page that you're currently on. Templates, which is going to be a very cool thing that comes out very soon, which you can buy and add a template to your site, which we'll talk about soon. Settings is a bit more things about managing your color palette and all the different things you have in there. That's SquareKicker color palettes. This is if you decided, I know what, I don't want SquareKicker anymore. Obviously, you want to uninstall it. That completely removes it altogether, the code as well as the extension. And if you're a designer, when we start putting out more features, the beta feature flag will be on here for designers as well. So that is the top level menu there. This tells you more about the subscription, what's going on here, and as well as the support. You can get in touch with us anytime. Inspiration pages. This is a really fun, exciting thing that not many people know about, but this is called the hide customization. So you click on this, it gives you a pop-up. Do you want to hide your edits? And if I say yes, basically that just disables all the SquareKicker code that you can see on your site. So if you just want to see what your site looks like without SquareKicker, click on that and away you go. But if you're on a Mac, you can hold down Option H, or for PC, it's Alt H, and you can just toggle that on with a hotkey, and you can really quickly turn Option H on and off to see what it is doing, and you can actually see what SquareKicker is on and off. So fun little cool feature. Pro tip, it's pretty exciting to use that. Now, if we jump into some more tools here, if we jump into site, the first thing we'll see is something to do with the header. And the overlay menu is what it looks like on mobile. So this is the overlay menu, which I currently have hidden on this page for the moment. This will be all your customizations for that overlay menu, but you can also have a desktop overlay menu, which I'll get to in a moment's time. This is your device toggle. This shows you a different view of your site along the way, but it also acts as a way to change unique customizations per device. So that flows down. So anything you customize when you're on all devices, or looks like the desktop icon, that will be available on all screen sizes. But if you want to change something specifically to maybe tablet and down, you can click on that icon and then make something specific to your site or your page or your block or your sections, and that will cascade down to the smaller devices. So for example, if I make a SquareKicker change now when I'm on tablet, that will affect my tablet and my mobile, but not my kind of sizes above tablet. And again, you can go walk your way through and actually make a custom site per screen size all the way down if you really wanted to. That's not to be confused with dragging blocks around. So if you move blocks around or resize blocks on your screen with Fluid Engine, that does not save that position of that block while that mobile is on there. Just the SquareKicker edits that can
We
sometimes
can't
be
control
confusing.
Squarespace yet.
We're not that cool. We thought about being that cool, but actually it would be, yes, it would be very, very tricky and maybe not very fun to manage over time. So that is the device toggle, which I'll show you in more detail how that works, especially when we get into blocks. Now, just to show you a couple of things in the page tool, for example, I'll turn on that desktop overlay menu, but for the moment, I'm just going to go into my header and my visibility. And because I have it turned off on my whole site, I want to turn off on my page, my header. So I'm gonna put my header back on and I can see my header again. You can see all the different things you want to show. So here's where I was talking about unique things for your desktop and mobile. So if I wanted to maybe not show my logo on my desktop, I'll turn off these things here. But for my logo for my mobile menu, I think, oh, actually, I'll leave that on. But for my desktop and everywhere else, I want my logo to be off for whatever reason on this page. That is another example you can do there. You can turn your social icons on off, your buttons. Now, if I go over to advanced, actually, I'm gonna go back to the site now. Go over to advanced and desktop overlay menu. If I flick on this, this enables my overlay menu to be on my desktop, not just for my mobile. So then when I head back, you see this little icon here. That's my mobile menu now, but it's been forced to my desktop. So that's how easy that is. And now I can go in and actually style that in my site tools, or my page tools, and adjust my different sizes for my spacing, my link colors. Let's go to different color links. You can change the hover of those link colors to a different color here when I'm hovering on those links. So quite a bunch of stuff you can go into. Again, there are tutorials for a lot of these here, so I won't go into detail too much about how these tools work. But let's just go back now, and just for the sake of this tutorial, let's go into the header and turn that header back off again. Cool. Now, what I'll go into now is I'll go into edit mode. When you go into edit mode, you're going to be able to see SquareKicker icons on a block or on your sections. So just to see where I'm at here, the first thing we're going to do is let's go to this text block and open up the SquareKicker. Cool. So the first thing I'm going to do on a text block, there's a whole bunch of options here for my font, the background, the border, position, spacing, shadows, effects, and visibility. A whole bunch of cool stuff. I'm going to show you something cool that I love. So when you're hovering over these different text elements, you see the yellow kind of selector pop up. That shows you what you're currently selecting on. And when I hop into it, you can actually do some more text edits. But what if I want to adjust the bold or the italic of a different word? So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to make this bold and I'm going to make this italic. Cool. So now when I hover on this, I'm hovering on all the text. But if I hover on the B, I just get the bold. Hover on italic, I just get the italic. There's also links and there's also strike through. So for the sake of this demo, we'll just go through bold. So now just the bold text, I'm going to give it a different color. Let's go some green. Oh, sorry, that was all colors, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's remove that. Click. Let's go to the bold and let's make my bold a green color. Great. And if I go back to my italic, I'm going to make my italic an orange color. And just because I maybe don't want the italic there, I'm actually going to remove the italic. And for the bold, I'm actually going to remove the bold as well. So I just have 3 different unique colors on that same line, which is pretty cool and exciting. But the fun thing as well is you can do some other cool stuff to that by going into my background. And of course, you can give it a background color, same as Squarespace, but I can also give it a gradient color. Let's do something like this and make it maybe a transparent color. Click over to custom and maybe a bit of fade gradient color in there. Now, the cool thing with this cool color picker is you can make all your different color palettes. If you want to adjust these by clicking on one of them, go to custom and you can quickly just adjust that quickly and think, oh, I want to use that again. That's all right. You can go back and select that and hop back in again. And actually, let's just make that color a new preset and create it. So now you have that as a new kind of transparent preset that you can use later on your site. So what are some other things we can do to that? Let's put a nice border on there. So a couple pixels of a border.
I'm not sure this is passing our branding test.
If Lauren sees this, I'm so sorry. She's our brand manager. She's on right now as well. And let's put a quick little shadow on here as well and do some of that, a bit more of a spread. Cool. Now it starts getting real fun is when I want to add maybe a effect to this. Let's just say when I hover on this, I'm just going to get it a little bit bigger. But maybe when I am hovering, it's going to grow a little bit, but maybe I want it to just grow a little bit slower. And this is a cool hidden tip here, which you can come in here and go ease out. So it'll ease in and out of your hover. So now I have almost what looks like a big button here, but as you can hover over, you kind of get the idea. You could do this to any block you want, specifically images. Cool. So let's just jump down and let's look at some other things like an image here. And let's look at some of these options here. So one thing you could do as well is you can make this image in advance on the blocks. You can make them over here, these advanced features, make this block sticky. So if I go sticky to the top, I might make this maybe 20. Let's go to 20. And so now when you scroll down, that becomes sticky and another block comes up over the top of it and then carries on. So that's kind of a fun little feature there, but there's some other cool things I want to show you with the advanced tools, and that's scrolling effects. They're very fun. So let's just turn on some simple scrolling effects. Maybe we're going to do a rotate. So we're going to rotate in. So it starts at minus 180 degrees. And as you scroll in, it rotates in and it says sticky and then it carries on. You'll notice that it stops becoming sticky when I want to scroll things away. So if I have a scroll out motion, it doesn't do anything until it scrolls away at the end, because scroll effects works while the block is moving on the screen. So if it stops moving, i.e. becomes sticky, then it's not doing the scrolling animation anymore. So now I have my little sticky thing. What else can I do here? Maybe if I make it scale. So let's scale in so it's growing in and growing out. And let's even come from the side over here. So it's kind of coming in and coming out. So some cool, fun stuff. Let's just do from vertical motion. Cool. So there's so many cool, fun things you can do with that scrolling block there.
Sometimes the hardest thing is to stop playing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like, especially with scrolling effects, I remember when this feature was first released with SquareKicker, we just spent all day being like, hey, and look, we can also do this. It's so much fun. And I think that's one of the things that surprises us all the time, is because you can combine so many of these tools and because you can create all of these different designs. We often get customers from SquareKicker sending us their websites and we're like, how did they do that? That's amazing. And so then we kind of gather around as a team and have a look at the different tools that they've implemented. So it really is out of the box tools that you can just use to create the designs that you want. It's not like when you're buying a preset plugin and you're quite restricted into the design that designer has made. And there are some great plugins out there. It's not to bash those at all, but with SquareKicker, you really can let your imagination run wild and kind of combine the things that you want, and also make sure that branding is really on point for your clients, because you can adjust all of those little nuances.
Cool. I'll move into the next piece. So those are the block tools. Now you can also go into sections, and now sections, you can do a bunch of cool things as well. Excuse me.
So Nick, just before you move on to sections, we've got a question here from Andrew, and he said, can you create a preset of multiple effects combo to apply again on another block?
You definitely can.
Talk quickly about presets.
Yeah, sure thing. So let's just go up in here, and for the sake of this, I'm just going to duplicate this block. Cool. And SquareKicker has duplicated all those changes, but let's just say I already had that block sitting there and I didn't have those. So let's just remove all that content there and remove all this. Cool. So now that block is basically kind of bulk standard again. So let's just say I want to keep this again for a preset. So on the pro or designer or the agency, you have access to presets. So if I come in here and add a preset for my, let's just call it my tagline, and I create a preset, what that's done now is all these are purple, which means these settings are now into a preset. So now if I go to my other block and hit into my presets features, I go to bang, and now I have that exact same feature as well. The really fun thing is then if you want to go in here and edit, this is where it starts getting really exciting. You can go in here and say, oh, actually my client has come back and said, can you please change the gradient color? I don't like that. Change it once and they change everywhere across your site. So that's a really nice way of making a preset and keeping consistency across your site. And if you change this color, for example, that will change across all your presets as well. So that's a fun little tip as well.
And if you want to apply that preset and just change it on one of those blocks, how can you do that?
Change it on just one of those blocks? Yeah. Oh, sorry. So if you apply a preset, So if you apply a preset, update that, and you think, oh, actually, these are close, but I actually want maybe just this one to have a different background color. You can click into that one only. And instead of changing it on your preset, you can go into your background and overwrite that color just with a click of a button there. So now you have a similar design but a small tweak on just that one block. Hope that answers your question there.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks, Nick.
I'll get rid of
Blocks.
the ugly one that I just made. Cool. And let's just jump into our section tools again. Now with sections, there are some cool things you can do with your width. So you can make the section width a different size. Let's just say, for example, it's 50%. And you think, okay, well, that looks kind of funny. But then if you go to the next one and make this one also 50%, it snaps in, you have two sections side by side. Obviously with this design, doesn't work super great. So let's just pull that back to full
By
width.
this design, you mean the fact that you've got the background colors the same?
I've got all sorts of weird stuff going on there. Actually, I'll put that back because then I can probably show you something else, which is maybe you want like a small thin border between your sections. So you can go into here and go to border. And let's just make a border only on my right side. And let's give it that orange color. And go back and bang. So now I have like a little thin border. Let's go 2 pixels. Yeah, 2 pixels there. Or a pixel on either side will potentially work as well. Hard to see with that blue Squarespace line. There we go. So now I have my 2 sections side by side with a border. You can, of course, put a whole box around the whole thing and make it, you know, very large and in charge if you want to as well. Some other things you can do here. Let's remove the layout and let's move the layout this one too. Cool. And let's say we also add a background color that's a gradient as well. So maybe you want to also do that. So that green color I already had saved, there it is, already saved there. So now I have my gradient background color there. And then let's get into some cool, fun, exciting things, which I love is the advanced sections. And if you make this section, this entire section sticky, not the block, and you hop in here and you go top. Now, when this section gets to the top, which it already is, it stays at the top. It will stay sticky while you scroll up the screen. So that section is now sticky and isn't going anywhere. But something that I love as well that's maybe not so easy to find is to make this section here, this background transparent so I can see through it. You go into the section background, color, and then just pick a color, maybe see custom, and just remove that transparency. You can have a little bit of overlay, but you can move it all together. And now you have your background that's here, but the next one comes up and then it sits right over the top. And you kind of basically see your section straight through like a window, which is quite fun. So very similar, if you want to do something like this, you can make this section sticky also, sticky to the top. And the next section, make that transparent. Let's go to here. And then you get this really cool effect where a title comes in, stays sticky, and you have images that flow right over the top, which can be kind of a fun little option here for that as well. Cool. So other fun things to do in the advanced section is to, actually let's go back to the first one. The advanced section is a sticky split, which is a huge favorite. So you can do a sticky split left to right, click the left-hand side, and then other sections that were underneath it will flow down to the right, and you can choose how many sections you want to include, 2 or 3 or 4. And then you can have all these sections just scroll left to right. You can choose to have this section on the left or the right, depending on how you want it to work. And of course, on mobile, they'll just stack as they normally would have been based on the desktop size. So let's turn that off and see what else is exciting here. Mouse cursor is a really fun thing to work on as well. You can choose a mouse cursor, say everywhere in this section or everywhere on this block or everything on this block. You can choose a mouse cursor like a star anywhere on here. But maybe you want to go to the link. So anytime you hover over a link, the star turns into a nice love heart. So every time you hover, I don't have any links at the moment, but let's just do that quickly and make a link. Cool. So if I exit this here on this section, you get a nice star and then you get a love heart because, you know, he's in love with stars. Great. I'm brutally murdering this branding over here, so I'm sorry about that, but you kind of get the point of some cool things that you can do with that.
Hopefully you're starting to see a little bit of how fast you can create some of these styles. And also, you know, when your clients come back with revisions, how fast you can change them as opposed to having to jump into your custom code and try and make those changes when your client has maybe changed their mind or is asking for something different. This is really, really fast so that you can be responsive to those client needs.
Yeah. So,
Alicia has just asked a question here is, on a pro plan, can you duplicate a site with saved presets?
Great question. So anytime you're inside of your Squarespace website dashboard and you duplicate a site in there, SquareKicker is not listening to what you're doing. And when you duplicate a site, all that code that was created on your original site is not going to work anymore. So when you're on your new site, the site looks exactly the same with Squarespace's duplication feature, but the site ID, the section IDs, the block IDs, everything about that site is actually a completely new site. So all the IDs that were normally targeted for that site doesn't work anymore. So there's actually nothing we can do at this stage. That's just basically by nature how it's working. However, with our feature being able to duplicate sites using a Squarespace template, which we'll get into later on, like I said, as well, that you will be able to kind of install templates without having to kind of duplicate a site first to pass off to a client to sell a template. Well, you can sell a template straight from and install on any site, and all the SquareKicker changes come with it as well. So great question, but SquareKicker cannot save SquareKicker settings when a site is duplicated. Here is a quick little trick as well for how mobile specific settings work. So if I'm in your font size here for this block and I switch over and see on mobile, I go, oh, that size is just a little bit too big on mobile. I actually wanted it to be on the same line. You can come in and just make it slightly smaller here. And then you have an option. In fact, let me get rid of this border as well. Let's go through. This is testing my creativity here. All right, so now you've got an option for that is on the same line, but it hasn't affected at all the desktop size. So that's kind of how that's worked there as well. So really cool feature there. Let me just show you one cool feature before I move on to some cool tutorials. And that's just this bottom section. There's a tool called a footer reveal. And so if you go into site and at the bottom in advanced here, there is a tool called footer reveal. Really easy. You flick that on and now your footer is kind of like a sticky footer. So it just reveals your footer, which is pretty fun. Even if you have a really big footer, let's just say your section is a full screen and then you have a massive, huge sticky footer right towards the end of your site. So cool feature right at the top there under site and advanced. Cool. So now, if there aren't any questions there, I might just roll straight into some pretty fun advanced features that I'm looking forward to sharing.
Sorry, Daniel has just asked,
Yeah.
Are the SquareKicker font settings attached to the Squarespace font settings?
Great question. Thank you, Daniel. So all of SquareKicker fonts are actually Google fonts. So I think there's over 1,100 fonts, a lot of fonts. All of Google's fonts are all in there. Now, Squarespace uses a handful of Google fonts as well as a handful of Adobe fonts. So Adobe fonts actually cost money. So you're not paying for those fonts. Squarespace is. Thank you, Squarespace. So you can use those fonts on your site. However, we can't embed and integrate Adobe's fonts on our SquareKicker site due to licensing issues. So there is options in the future we're looking at how to actually create licenses so you can use your Adobe license or SquareKicker's Adobe license inside of SquareKicker, but that is a limitation of it's just Google fonts inside of SquareKicker. So great question there. Cool. So the first thing we're going to look at some advanced tools is this really cool, fun feature here. And honestly, I didn't even know SquareKicker could do this. I was just playing around one day and I thought, can SquareKicker do this? And it can. And I got really excited. So we made a quick tutorial on LinkedIn, or not LinkedIn, Instagram, the other socials. And I just thought I'd just show you how to do this here. Quite simple, but it's just using sticky. So we have here a text block here and an image block, and that's, very simple. What I'm going to do here is just have a look inside and see what I've got. So I've got my font, my H1, and I got my cool font, my bagel fat one, great font. And this is a really cool outline feature here. And if I'm just going to add an outline to this guy and just maybe make it 2 pixels for an outline, you can't quite see it, but you will see in a moment. So 2 pixels there. And then I'm going to duplicate this block. Great. And so now you can see that block is there. And now when I go into my font, my outline will be there, but I'm just going to remove the color. So I have my outline and then just smash it right over the top. Cool. So my text block, not my text block, my blocks here are basically, they're scrolling away still, but I wanted to say sticky. So move this on the side. Click on SquareKicker and let's just make that sticky to the top by maybe 20 viewport height. So viewport height is the height of your screen. So it's 20 down from the height of your screen. Let's do the same with the other block. And sticky block, 20 viewport height. Now when I smash it over the top, they're just going to say sticky. Now, my issue here is I'll need to layer that block between the two. Now, watch what happens when I use a handy dandy tool in my advanced section for layer. I can actually send it back or bring to front or have custom, and you can choose where exactly in the layers you want this to be. And when it threads through the middle, you get this really fun effect of the block threading straight through, which can be quite exciting. Cool, so that's one feature. Move on to another one. One is scrolling effects demo. You've probably already seen a little bit of scrolling effects here, but just another option here. You can have an image fade in over the top of it while it's coming in. So to show you what's happening there, I've got 3 images here. Let's go to my first image. And what I want to do is go to open my scrolling effects. And I'm actually going to use a custom timeline here. And this is a little bit more advanced, but the custom timeline shows you the start of the animation and the end of the animation. And in the middle here, nothing is happening. So it just pauses. So when you go into your opacity, flick on opacity, you have the entrance, which is this area here, the exit, which is the end bit, and then center, again, which is the gap in the middle where it gets to. So I want that to be right about there. And as I'm coming down, you see how it's going on this timeline. It's scrolling down, it's fading in. When it gets to 38, it stops. And then it gets to 60 and it fades away. But I actually don't want to fade away. So my exit is going to be 100% as well. So that's great. I'm actually going to put this down to maybe 25%. So it fades in a lot quicker. And then I'm there. The next image I'm going to go for, and I'm going to go to scrolling effects, custom timeline, and instead of starting, let me go my opacity, my 25%, I'm probably going to go about maybe 30%, and my entrance and my center are going to be 0, but my exit is actually going to be 100%. So now when it gets to be about 60%, it's going to fade in. So it's going to be invisible, 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 and then it's going to fade in. So watch what happens when I layer these together. And again, I probably want to fill this. It's going to go into Squarespace Design and go to Fill, so it covers the whole area. And this one I'm going to bring to the top and fill this as well. Great. So now if I scroll up, I have this image. First one fades in, and then the second one fades in. And I carry on. So that's a little bit of fun scrolling effects for you there on scroll.
Cool. That's awesome. I think we probably are out of time to keep on those tutorials, but hopefully that's inspired you with a few of the things that you can do. And like we keep saying, there's so many tools that you can play with.
Can I just show one more?
You want to show one more?
This is honestly one of my favorite tools, and I'm really excited to share it.
You're gonna make it quick though.
I'll make it really quick.
Everyone's got to get home.
Fixed scrolling is probably one of my favorite new tools we just made. So that is allowing sections, content, or background to be fixed. So as you can see here, I have 2 texts. They're lined up exactly the same. If I click on here in advanced and do fixed scrolling, I'm just going to fix the content, and that's going to make the content stay fixed. And in the next section, I'm going to make the content also stay fixed. And then now when I'm doing that, when I'm scrolling, I'm getting this really cool fun effect where it just
You're
scrolls
right. That's
right over.
totally worth showing.
It's very, very fun and cool. And then of course you could put that in horizontal scrolling, and you can make either the fixed content and background, or, you know, if I just want to just fix the content and the background's moving, I can do that. Or if I want the background to be fixed and the content scrolling. So it can be a really fun thing to do. And of course, there's some really cool hover features just to get you inspired.
Yeah.
That's me done.
And these are all really great ways to make sure that your users are staying engaged with your site. We all know how important that dwell time is to making sure that your client's site's performing really well. And what we find, particularly with some of these features where there's awesome scrolling effects or some of those sticky things, is we get a lot of interaction on those sites, which just, you know, Google loves that stuff. So it can be a really valuable thing that you can explain to your clients as well. And hopefully they feel like they're getting a lot of value out of that too. That's awesome. Before I forget, I was just remembering one thing as you were going through those tutorials. Thanks for all of those, Nick. Is that there is a Circle discount for SquareKicker. So if you go onto the Circle forum, it's under a tab that I can never remember the name of.
Member perks.
Member perks, that's what it's called, perks. It must not be a very Kiwi word because it never sticks in my brain. So if you go to member perks and you can go in there and there's I think a 20% discount for SquareKicker for your first year. So if you're signing up for the first time, make sure you go in there and grab that discount code and make the most of that value. Really quickly before we sign off, we just wanted to go over a little bit of what's happening with our template system. So this is the next big thing that SquareKicker is rolling out, and it's coming soon. We're really, really excited about it. Last year, we sat down with a bunch of our SquareKicker users and said, you know, what are the real pain points? What's holding you up? How can we help provide more value to you? And what we heard a lot was they wanted some way to create passive income. So as the client work ebbs and flows, which we all know happens, it can be really hard to maintain that consistent income. And so having some sort of passive income is just gold for that. So we really looked to see how SquareKicker could help solve that in a way that wasn't going to create a lot of extra work for designers. So that's when we started looking at this template system. And I'm going to zoom through it really quickly, but there's more information on our website. And if you're following along, like I said, this is coming out soon. So we will be providing a lot more information, or you can email us and we can let you know. So Nick, if you just want to flick through, there's kind of 3 parts to this template system. So the first part is the template studio. So these are tools that creators are provided with via SquareKicker to make your templates. So to become a SquareKicker template seller, you will need to go through an application process because everything will be hosted on our website. So we're going to onboard designers into this process. So there'll be an application that you can fill out. Currently, there's a wait list. So if you're interested in this, jump into our website. There's a templates tab. At the bottom of that, there is a wait list that you can join up and we'll give you lots of information. But when you become a creator with SquareKicker templates, you get access to this template studio. In there, you can create all of your designs like you've just seen with Squarespace and SquareKicker and design up your website. And then there's some tagging systems so that you can add all of those pages and sections into a template that will be exported into our system. The next part of this is the template store. So this is where we will sell those templates on your behalf. So there's no duplication. There's no you emailing the template user that's purchased it. It's a fully automated system and we handle all of that on our end. So once you've created the template, that sits in there and we basically handle that full sales process for you. So all you need to worry about there is collecting the money that that you are selling with all of your amazing templates. So each designer will get an individualized sales page, so you can curate a collection of your own templates and link people directly to that piece of the store. So rather than just sending them to the general SquareKicker template store, you can actually send them directly to your own template sales page so that you can kind of help draw in some of those customers as well.
Let's not forget about the amazing full-time world-class customer support at SquareKickers get to handle all those support tickets, as well as any tutorials about people wanting to know how do you add an image in Squarespace. So all that can be taken care of as well by SquareKicker.
Absolutely. No more customer support for you. So what that means is, if any of you have currently sold templates, that's quite a manual system. If you sell 100 templates overnight and you're in a Fiji holiday, you suddenly have to manage passing all of those sites out to those users. With SquareKicker, you can sell 1,000 and it's going to be no more work for you. And then the last part of the system is the build part. So this is the template user will then have sections and pages available in a really similar format to how they would see a Squarespace page and section picker, and you can just add those pre-built templates in. So Squarespace will still operate exactly as it does, but they will also get access to this full template that you've created.
Yeah, so really looking forward to this. And of course, we're nearing the end of our Q1, which we've talked about actually getting our invitation for our first wave of creators in. So getting very, very close. It's all looking very, very exciting and good. So we'll be looking forward to launching hopefully this entire store full of beautiful templates towards the middle of the year.
Yeah, that was a super fun rundown. So I apologize, but Nick wanted to share his cool stuff. But like I said, if you've got any more questions, feel free to flicker those through to you and we will make sure that we answer those. But first thing, if you're interested, is make sure you get on that wait list and then we will be able to send out all of that information to you. Cool. Do we have any questions? We've just got a couple of minutes before we have to sign out. No, it sounds like lots of people need to go. Well, I think hopefully we have filled up your brains with lots of exciting things about SquareKicker. Sorry, Alex, did you want to jump in?
No, I just lost audio and I wasn't sure, but I love the tech issues. I was just going to launch a very quick poll because I feel like everyone has already kind of like when they're jumping in the chat has already sort of said, but for anyone that's still on, yeah, I'd love to know if you guys enjoyed that and whether you want to do more of these because I think, yeah, obviously outside perspective, I think that was incredible, like so useful for you guys just to walk through. So thank you so much. Oh, I love that. 100% yeses. That's so good.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. It's so exciting and great to see some Australian and New Zealand designers. We would definitely love to see some of you in that template waiting list. You don't have to be a subscriber to SquareKicker to be on that wait list. Just feel free to jump in. There is a free trial on SquareKicker as well. So if you did just want to get in and play with it, that's not a one-off free trial either. You can add a free trial every time you add a new site. So don't hold back. Set up a dummy Squarespace site, set up a SquareKicker trial and go and have a little play.
Cool. And if you need any help, again, reach out to our team. We're just standing by waiting for you to help you guys out. So even if you have some exciting things you saw on a Webflow site, you're like, can SquareKicker do that? Just let us know. Give us a link. We're happy to help see if it's possible.
It's our favorite question. Can SquareKicker do that? Is our favorite question. So make sure you send that through. Thanks so much for having us, Alex. We really appreciate you hosting this. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys so much. That was awesome. Really appreciate it. And for everyone, I will send out the recording once it becomes available. So you'll get an email from me with that. So feel free to watch it back anytime.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Cheers.